We have already seen some reaction from congressmen. We know that the reaction from the Democrats was pretty expected, but we're also getting some reaction from Republicans like Senator Lindsey Graham saying that this was a missed opportunity by the president to firmly hold Russia accountable for 2016 meddling and deliver a strong warning regarding future elections. What's your response?
Well, of course, I agree with my good friend Lindsey Graham. I mean, I think it was not only a missed opportunity, coming after the contentious meetings that President Trump had with our allies in NATO, particularly directing criticism at one of our great allies in Germany, Chancellor Merkel, and Prime Minister May of United Kingdom, which is our closest ally in the world probably, to see this press conference was not only a missed opportunity, and frankly, I thought the president's performance today was disappointing but profoundly troubling. And here's why I say that. We know that the Russians didn't just meddle in America's elections in 2016. They tried to determine who would be the next president of the United States. It's fundamental to our democracy that the people of the United States choose their own leaders. I mean, honestly, how are you going to make America great again if a foreign power can determine the winner in our elections? And what I'm saying now is not just me. It's based on the conclusion and statement just in the last week of Dan Coates, my former Republican colleague in the Senate from Indiana, today the Director of National Intelligence of America, put there by President Trump, who said the intelligence is clear. The Russians try to determine who would be the next president of the United States. And we that's outrageous. We can't just listen to that and say, oh, it's too bad. Go ahead, Kevin.
Senator, I'm in the room where this press conference was held, and in fact, we're going to leave after I ask you this question, and I'll leave it to Sherry to conclude, because we are breaking down here in the room. But I do want to ask you whether or not you thought of any energy policy that could be forged ahead. You heard the president specifically talk about, for example, the Nord Stream 2. Was there anything, Senator, that you saw that gave you confidence, at least, or maybe a sigh of relief in terms of policy moving forward between U.S. and Russia relations?
Well, maybe a little hope. Look, I'm not one who says that President Trump shouldn't meet with President Putin. During the height of the Cold War, American presidents met with leaders of the former Soviet Union. But the question is what you do and say at the meeting. Maybe there's a little hope of energy cooperation, but I hoped that President Trump was as vigorous in opposing that pipeline deal between Russia and Germany with the Russians as he was with our allies in Germany. And of course, we don't know what happened at the meeting about Syria, in which a lot of lives are on the line.
But on that point, doesn't President Trump have a point to some degree when it comes to being more critical of its allies? Germany, for example, he said was captive to Russia, but also when it comes to the G7 and so forth, a lot of the points that he's making, some Americans would say are justified, spending more.
Yeah, so some of the points I agree with. For instance, for years, I and a lot of other Americans have been calling on our allies in NATO to increase their defense budgets, although they already spend over $300 billion a year on defense, which is a support to us. Second, I agree that there was a danger that Russia was using its energy resources to influence Western European countries, including Germany. So it's not so bad that President Trump brought that up with President Merkel. I thought it was done in a harsh way, but she can handle it. But then to contrast that with this sort of bro-fest between Trump and Putin in Helsinki, it just doesn't ring true, because the Europeans are our allies. Putin really is still our enemy.
Well, according to President Trump today, he's calling the European Union a foe when it comes to trade. And although you're saying Chancellor Merkel can handle his criticisms, what are the chances that this could do irreparable damage to Western alliances?
I think ultimately, look, it could do real damage to Western alliances, but we depend on each other too much. I mean, the European Union buys exports from the United States that create almost 3 million jobs here in the United States. We need them. And we need them militarily as well, because we spend a little over $600 billion a year on defense. The NATO countries spend over $300 billion. That like increases our spending by 50%. Could they? Should they spend more? Sure they should. And the president was right to bring that up. But here's really my main point. Putin is not our friend. And if the message from this meeting between Presidents Putin and Trump is that we're now friends. This is the man, he suppresses his own people. He doesn't believe in democracy. He invaded Crimea. He killed some people in England, and he is responsible for hundreds of thousands of deaths through Assad in Syria. I mean, this is a menace, and we got to treat him that way even while we talk to him.
And the implications for American values when it comes to dealing with these allies and rivals.
Absolutely right. We're always better when we stick to our values. And today's press conference didn't look like American values.